Some sociologists believe that the primary contributor to the egoism, the pride, the self-centeredness of our society are small families. You remember we talked about that? Small families. And as families are small, or children are spread apart, and they are getting smaller, as you know. In fact, the average family in America has 1.7 children. As one little boy said to his sister, I'm the one, you're the 0.7. But families are small, and small families create a completely different kind of environment. For example, if you are raised in a family where you're the only child today and your mother and father work in the typical scenario today, your life might go something like this. You are awakened in the morning by your clock radio, stereo, CD player, and you jump out of bed and feed your exotic tropical fish and go to your closet and get your designer clothes on, and you hop out, and your mother meets you in the hall, and she says, well, what would you like for breakfast? She's always asking you what you want because she wants to minimize conflict. And you say, well, I like pancakes and some sausage. Well, okay, I'll get that for you. So you go in and you sit down. This is the one-child family, and he eats his little breakfast, and she says, what would you like for lunch? And he says, well, I think I like a ham and cheese sandwich and some chips and a candy bar. Fine. And she gets it all together and she gives it to him in a little purple pink bag with bears on it. And as he goes to the door, she says, well, what time will you be home? Well, I'm going to stop at Jimmy's house and we're going to fix his bicycle, but I'll be home at 6 o'clock. Okay, now 6 o'clock. Yeah, I'll be home at 6, and fine. Off he goes to school. The whole world is simply set up to do whatever he wants done the way he wants it done, because that minimizes the conflict. He comes home from school at 6, and she has decided to prepare something special for her husband and for him, and it's kind of different, and she puts it in front of him. He says, I don't want this. Oh, well, what would you like? Well, I'd like to have a hamburger. Okay, well, I'll just feed this to the dog, and I'll have your hamburger. That's life. Now, that produces a warped child who believes that all society bends to meet his needs. That the whole system in the world is to meet his needs, to accommodate him. Now, if you were raised in my family, it wasn't like that. I woke up early because there was so much noise. We all woke up early, and if we didn't wake up, Mom said, get up, breakfast in 15 minutes. And I jumped out of my bed, and my grandmother jumped out of the bed next to mine. We had the same room. That's right. I grew up sharing twin beds with my grandmother. And my 3 sisters and Mom and Dad and grandmother and I all headed for one bathroom. And when we got in there, it was, a fight. Basically, to see who could get their face in front of the mirror. I threw water on my hair and zap, and I was out of there. You say, well, I went right back into the clothes laying in a heap from the night before. I dropped them. I went right back into them again the next day. I didn't know designer from what. I went into the breakfast room. We all had to arrive at a certain time, and you ate what was there. There were no requests. And when you went out the door, you got a brown bag with lunch, and you checked it halfway to school to see what was in it. And usually you didn't get enough for breakfast, so you ate half of it. And as you were going down the road, Mother said, dinner at 5:30. If you're here, you eat. And when you came at 5:30 and the dinner was there, if one kid said, I don't like it, the next kid said, good. He took it. I mean, there was no messing around in my family. And we grew up realizing the whole world doesn't accommodate us. You learn to defer. I never remember my mother taking me shopping to buy an outfit, whatever an outfit was. All I know is there would be days when we would come home from school and Mother would say, this is yours, this is yours, this is yours. I went shopping. I never went to a store and had her say when I was a little kid, what would you like? The only store she ever went to was Sears. In those days, it's a different world. And so we grew up with the idea that you have to get along with a lot of folks and you've got to fit the system. We're raising a generation of young people who figure the whole system owes them something. And that finds its way into the church. And how do you get people who don't know what it is to humbly defer and submit? How do you get those kinds of people to come into the church and learn how to wash each other's feet? It was good for me to grow up in the same room with my grandmother. I didn't even think about it at the time. You hear the psychologists say, well, every kid needs his space. What do you mean? And people buy huge homes with mammoth bedrooms so they can make sure every kid has his own private space. What are they going to do in there? I couldn't do anything in my room that my grandmother wouldn't approve of. And she wouldn't approve of hardly anything anyway. I mean, her generation was a pretty short fuse, you know. But you understand the difference in the kinds of culture you have today. Kids demand privacy. They want what they want, when they want it, how they want it. They want their space, and they are being programmed to demand, not to serve. Not to serve. That's a tough disease for the church to deal with. How can we get people to wash each other's feet? Let me give you a fifth disease that